Hello everyone, welcome to Tracksidetalks episode 14.
14?
Yes, 14.
Sure, I thought 15.
You've been missing for so long, sir?
Really? No, 1 week only.
This joke has been running from last year. No?
Everyone from
Now
Singapore
the one
to
who's
somewhere
holding the
else,
record is him.
Only record. This episode is powered by Xandro. Alright, episode 14.
Yes,
We've got people traveling all over the world. Melvin
Yes.
going to some corner of Europe. Firoz going to Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Tell me more. What's happening?
Southeast Asia, that was in Bangkok, right? Yeah. It was A6 meta time trial.
Okay.
So we've been talking about this in the previous episode
Right.
about who my competitors were.
Yeah.
So I was not supposed to lose to Yong Man Yun and Go Trailing.
Actually, we take a pause there, right? When our listeners hear about your competitors, they thought like legit SEA Games medalist one. Then suddenly the two SEA Games medalist also. I'm sorry.
They are, Firoz. Melvin.
SEA medalist but different gender.
Asian Games competitors,
Right.
Sorry.
So, quick snippet, what happened? Give us your timing.
It was real exciting. Okay. I must give, before the timing, I give you the background.
You sure? I'm trying to fight your case here. Is it?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I need to defend myself.
Okay.
So for 2 months, I was suffering with the cough that's affecting my lungs. So
Wow.
it's like,
Wow. 2 months.
Sound like my
of
grandma,
cough.
bro.
Your uncle, lah.
My grandma always say the same excuse.
Hey, really? 2 months? Why I hear you shouting
so
the
the
last month?
okay. I was targeting 345, right? So I was training up to it. So I could only do 345 up to 6.4K July before I left for Thai Sports School Games with my sports school kids. So after that, when I come back, right, it was haywire. I was back to 4 minutes. I couldn't even do 345, so I was struggling.
Okay.
So after that, the cough continued from that moment I was in Thailand.
Right.
Yeah, all the way for 2 months.
2 months, okay?
Yeah, so on Wednesday, the race week, race week, Wednesday, I tried to test out race pace. So I really let go. So I told myself 4 minutes is it.
Easy, yeah.
So 6K for 4 minutes should be doable, right?
Doable.
But by 3K, I died. And I saw average pace was at 354. Then I was thinking, holy crap, what's my fitness like? So I don't know what my fitness was like going into MTT.
Right. Mystery.
Yeah. So
But then you know your competitors were doing really well, right?
Yeah.
Like Chui Ling and Man Yun, unfortunately, two wonderful ladies were running at what pace?
Okay, 345. Trailing was targeting 345, 340.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your original pace.
Yeah.
And then Man Yun was planning to run sub 40 minutes.
Sub 40.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when I just rested.
Yeah.
Then when it comes to race day, whatever happens.
I heard the night before you went out party and stuff at Bangkok.
The night, no.
Oh, no.
Night
Okay.
we were sleeping.
Sorry, wrong news.
First night.
First night. Okay, maybe. Okay.
Oh, unless you got many nights in Bangkok.
So what happened when you
What
started?
happened? Oi.
Were you in the
Then
lead?
different competitors came in front.
Oh, okay.
Go Xingling.
Ah.
Joyda. Joyda was I knew she would be in front of me. Joyda was from Philippines, right?
Joyda.
Yeah,
thought
should be.
Thailand.
Okay.
Thailand.
So other female competitors overtook you from the start of the race.
So Joyda,
Yeah.
pothole again. Pothole incident.
Okay.
Yeah. So she,
Why
she
me?
fell.
Wait. Help me.
Later
Coming
we'll
soon.
So I think she fell.
Yeah.
And then after she was out within 2K. In the
Oh,
into the
no.
race. Yeah. So
Okay.
she was.
Unfortunate. Yeah.
So I was looking out for the fleet
Big
of
names.
girls in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking
So
like,
always
I
looking
need
for
to chase
girls.
them. I need to keep them inside, chase
Right.
them, and
Always chasing
Yeah.
girls.
Always chasing girls. Yeah. Okay. I'll never
yeah.
the other
So
way around.
after which,
Focus.
by 5K, I wanted to stop. I mean, I was going good. I look at my first K was 340. I said, not too bad. Okay, let's maintain.
Right.
Yeah. Then it was about 340 something.
Right.
350s.
Okay.
Yeah.
5K
So-
mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
So by 5K, I saw Arif. He
Okay.
was done with his race. Then he was just trying to help out other female runners. Yeah.
Arif was done with his. Oh, he ran a shorter distance, is it?
No,
Oh.
he's
really fast.
He was not feeling good as well.
Okay, he
a
dropped
lot,
out.
a lot of them were either injured or recovering from
Sure.
sickness. Yeah. So Manny and Chuling was behind me. Yeah.
At that point of time, 5K,
exactly.
then you saw a Pattaya store and then you decided to take a break, is it?
So I saw Arif
Okay.
stopping already.
Stopping.
He said he was done his race.
Right.
So apparently he ran 323 or 322 per
Right.
K for 5K. Then after he said he's taking too much.
Saw
then
it, yeah.
So after which he asked me, where's the Manny?
Yeah.
That's why I say, behind. I think I went faster than 4 minutes. So I left them behind. I was supposed to pace them. In a
showing
way.
off. Yeah,
We
yeah.
wanted to run together at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I left them behind. I went on.
Okay.
Bad pacer.
Okay.
So by 7K, I hear Arif cheering the person he's facing.
Right.
And eventually it was pacing trailing. And
Oh, damn.
Two of them took me down at I think
the same
7K.
time?
I mean, he was pacing trailing.
Okay.
So he took me down.
Yeah.
And he was an excellent pacer, bro.
Right.
He was shouting and cheering on trailing. He was asking her, do you need water?
Wow.
She said, no, don't need. But Arif went to take water.
Then
Do
drink
you
it
want some? Yeah. Then she took.
Okay. Very nice guy. Okay.
Arif was excellent pacer.
Okay.
The distance between me, so I gave up at 5K plus, right? So Xing Ling opened up the gap.
Okay.
Who else? Amelia from Malaysia came in also. Another Vietnam girl also came in about 6K, 7K.
Right.
So they were far ahead.
Right.
So personally, I felt that I was at my max. I couldn't chase.
Sure, of course.
But the amazing thing was, Arif and Trading, who just cut me at 7K, chased them down. They were like probably 200-300 meters
Into the race. Yeah.
away from us. You know?
Yeah.
Literally, you need to run how much faster to chase them, right?
Yeah.
And Trading did it, bro.
Wow.
And when I was approaching the stadium, I heard the MC announcing loudly like the top three girls are going head to head, neck to neck in the last 200 meter. I was thinking last 200 meter. And I just came into the stadium. Last 300 meter. So they were already going into the finishing.
So long story short, you came in, you lost to trailing. It's fine.
I lost to 4 girls.
It's okay. The other girls is not proud. The main thing that we were supposed to fight was with Manyin.
Manyin only, yeah.
Right.
So trailing was a...
Training was a... we knew it was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen. It's fine. But where was Manyin? Our dear Manyin.
Oh, she was behind. She also wasn't feeling good.
Okay.
A week before, I think she had a race. Then
The triathlon.
Right.
So she went hard.
So I heard from her, might be fake news, but I heard from her, she's going to take you on at Garmin Run.
I believe she would lah. After what happened, after MTT, I was down fever 1 week out again.
So right now it's 1-0 to you, but she's going to fight you at Garmin Run.
We shall see lah.
Okay.
I'll still give my best.
All right. Big round of applause for Firoz for doing his best at MTT. And now for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Took a flight to Europe to find a very nice hole.
Before you ask me about my adventure with potholes,
yeah. Talk to me.
Yeah, I want to find out. So at MTT, right, was Xing Ling leading all the way?
Oh, yes. At the start, I thought
she was all the way leading.
Okay, you know I'm a mid-list runner, right? Every time.
Are you? Oh yeah. Okay.
I remember you lah, but as in
every time I track, when I start, I'm the fastest starter. I'll always be.
I know that one.
Whether they want to cut me or what. But this time now, I lost to Xing Ling and Joyda. The two.
Right from the gun.
Yeah, right from the gun.
They took you down already.
I was thinking like, what's happening here, man?
That is actually a conversation
right from the start.
for another day on how that whole thing went down. But it's good to see that our female competitors are not afraid to toe the line with our guys and beat them at the start as well. So amazing.
Yes.
Humbling experience. It's okay.
No, it's
okay. We love you still.
My time is over, bro.
Wait. Tracksidetalks still need to happen. Okay, Mr. Melvin laughing in the corner very happily. Tell us more.
Come on, man.
In a quick minute or two, Berlin. Because the whole race lasted for a minute or two only, right?
Nonsense. This guy ran 10K only, right? Cover like as if the marathon.
Precisely. So you must give us more. Let's go.
But it's okay.
Exciting.
Yeah, I forgive you.
We forgive you. Okay. Yes.
I went on my Berlin adventure. Everything was good. Everything was good. Right up to race day. Actually, I was really feeling good. I did a small little workout 2 days before the marathon.
Right.
Like 4 times 1K.
That was in Berlin already.
In Berlin already.
Okay,
yeah.
nice.
And I thought it was good signs. I had 1K and then I was doing between like 342 to 338. And the heart rate was 130.
Wait, you're running at 340 per K.
Shut the hell up, huh?
No, I'm not complaining. I'm just trying to understand. And you say your heart rate was 130.
Yeah, so it was really good. Like everything was
You're fit. Yeah.
fit until the pothole.
So tell the audience, you started off the race. I'm sure you had a good start. Some people overtook you, just like Firoz. But then what happened?
Yeah. So anyway, race was good. I started with Derek and Gordon.
Okay.
In Pen A, and then everything was going well. I started more conservatively, like about 350, 345. Then I moved the way down.
Safe.
But It was a crowded event.
55,000, I heard.
Yeah, 55,000. But I don't blame them.
It's an important rate.
Yeah, and well, the key thing that happened was that I ran into a pothole. My foot collapsed into a small pothole at about 18K mark.
Damn.
So I landed awkwardly.
Right.
One of my foot like collapsed, and I think in trying to I don't know, like
Manage
counter react, right?
Yeah.
I tried to like stiffen up body,
Right.
but I think I pulled a certain like inner groin like muscle.
Ah.
Yeah. So I continued running for another 7K, but I think that 7K was a bit of a drag and painful lah. It was a lot of soreness at the hip lah. So yeah, so I made that decision to like have to pull out at about 25K.
Well, it's a smart move, brave move as well. But it's okay. I mean, it's just Berlin. You can always go again next year. just take a train down to Berlin, right? Simple. But hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, better now.
Yeah.
Well, just now before we start, right, I realized that our dear Firoz, right, has the highest mileage among three of us.
Right.
Yeah.
Three of us. Don't count me in lah. Maybe you want to include Bob. Maybe he got more mileage this week.
There might be one more guest that we are expecting.
That one cheat code. Yeah, we cannot find.
Then we'll find out more.
But what's your mileage for this week?
20K.
Wow.
20.
What's your mileage for this week?
I think gonna hit 50.
Wow.
Hey, but that's a big jump from last week. Last week was 9.6.
Okay. It's okay. It's alright.
It's okay.
But this is a very good segue to our topic for the day.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Injuries, stomach problems, potholes. We've got a whole list of shit that we need to uncover. Right? Cough.
I cannot breathe.
That lasts for 2 months. Right? So maybe it's a great time we bring in our guests for the day on the topic of training effectively through the lens of a medical professional.
That's right, man.
Who is our amazing guest for today, Melvin?
Let's welcome him.
Right. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Gen Lin.
I thought it's a Zoom talk.
That's fine, don't worry.
It's okay, we're going to see his full body.
Yeah. This is a legit doctor, right? You can run, alright.
Try my best to still getting harder every year.
Okay. I think for your mic, let's adjust it so that it's easier for you to speak into it.
Yeah.
All good. So, Dr. Gen Lin, the man, the myth, the legend. We have seen you in so many different outfits, and today you're in a very nice medical outfit. Tell us more about yourself, sir.
So, name is Jen. I've known you guys since I started running competitively in Singapore. I outside of my running work, I work as a sports surgeon, orthopedic doctor. Orthopedic is a very long term, but it really just means like I'm a bone doctor in a nutshell. Okay. So my interest is in sports injuries. So I see a lot of patients, a lot of athletes who have this sort of injuries. And the journey about how I began or like chose to do this was because as a kid at school, I was actually very sporty. So I can this really long scar here you can see from my football days where I used to play a lot of football and not anymore after my injuries. Broke my wrist as well. So quite a few things as a kid that I did to myself and ended up seeing a bone doctor. So that's how I kind of got inspired that like if I'm going to be breaking myself like over the course of the years, shouldn't I do something similar so I can treat myself potentially? So I mean that's partly how like the journey started, and sort of after medical school in the UK, came out of Singapore and took up my residency training in orthopedic. So I kind of came out to do my own thing about last year in Apex Sports Clinic. And I see a lot of athletes, see a lot of like sports injuries. Right. And hopefully I don't see you guys in my clinic anytime soon.
I don't think you will see me, but maybe Heroes you might.
I think you got a potential one next to you.
So, and then could you tell us a bit more? I think you just mentioned that how you saw yourself as a kid getting injured, and then you're like, this works for me. I could become a doctor who treats bone issues. What is the most rewarding thing is your time as a orthopedic surgeon that you have felt?
So I think for myself as a kid having injuries, it was always very heartbreaking when you're training for a race and you have this injury and you can't kind of like go back to the sport that you really enjoyed. Right. So when I had the treatment from a doctor and actually managed to go back to the sport, I felt that was something that I really owe a lot to the doctor who was treating me. So I think coming from the shoe now of being an orthopedic surgeon, I think what's really fulfilling to me is actually to see the same thing happen for my athletes. And I find that like being part of the journey from going from their injury and going back to their sports has been really rewarding.
Right.
And I think when I see some of my athletes, kind of go back to doing some of the crazy things they do.
Right.
And sometimes there's a bit of pressure as well, because obviously I race with some of the athletes that I treat. So it's always nice to, when you go back to the race, you see some of these friends that like you have been treating and they're like, oh, doing well. And you're like, it's praying hard that they don't have any more injuries and can go back and doing the things that they enjoy doing. So I think that's been really rewarding for me to see some of these athletes go back to their sports.
And sorry, just to tell the audience, how long have you been practicing?
I have been sort of like doing this for about 17 years, but I came out to do my own thing about a year ago. So I was in the public system up to last year.
Wow.
So I've been doing my thing for the past 1 year in private. So I'm that old, unfortunately.
Can't be as old as Firoz. I mean,
No. I think I'm the third youngest here.
Not much difference, dude.
Sorry, fourth youngest.
okay, understood.
So, Jen, I want to ask you,
Yeah.
like, have you found yourself in a situation, right, whereby you go to a gathering of runners, right, and they ask you about orthopedic, what is it all
In
about?
my
I know you
bone
say-
pain lah.
Yeah, you're a bone
Free
doctor, no, but
consultation.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure to say sadly or not sadly, but like that doesn't just happen only in running things. So when I go for like some social events and like Chinese New Year, for example, like all my aunties, all the relatives will start coming, oh, you're a bone doctor. I've got this shoulder pain, I've got knee pain. And normally after a while there's a line of people going up and I'm in this awkward position like examining their knee like on the dinner table. It's like, oh, you have this and that, So yeah, I mean it is sort of an occupational hazard to encounter some of these things. But I mean I do actually enjoy it sometimes, like that's that casual thing and just being able to help out somebody. And I really have an interest in like seeing some of these injuries and seeing how can I help them. So yeah, I do encounter a lot of that.
You start charging. Chinese New Year, ask them to give you
So
a already.
I got
One line.
pay away for my phone. Just that.
Put the QR code.
now can use request for payment.
Yeah.
$10 person.
Easy. So I should start doing that. Yeah.
So I'm sure you see a lot of sports or athletes or like active patients.
Yes.
What are some of the common injuries you experience or encounter from those segment of people?
Yeah.
Especially runners, maybe.
Yeah, because it's obviously a running podcast, so the focus is more on runners. So I mean, lower limb injuries are the most common. So knee injuries and ankle injuries are the most common. So for the ankle sprains from potholes.
Hey, wow. Shots fired.
Okay, that's it.
This shots fired to Berlin,
So
not to
I
Melbourne.
can check on you after this.
We should do a live analysis of your bone right now, Melvin.
All right, see?
Yeah, so it's very common amongst the runners. I think just because, sometimes the trail runners, especially like the terrain is a bit uneven, so ankle sprains are very common. Knee injuries tends to be sometimes from overuse and shin splints too, like from overtraining. So those are the three most common things that I see amongst runners.
I got a question, yes. So shin splints, right? It's like quite common for beginners.
Is
Everybody
actually.
everybody,
Yeah,
yeah.
everybody actually gets it. But I think usually for the experienced runners, it happens when they suddenly up their mileage a bit too much. So that's what I see, especially towards the end of the year when you have Stanchart Marathon coming up. I start seeing a lot of patients coming to my clinic like,
They start
got
knocking
this
the
shin-
mouse.
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of treatment can you give?
So I mean, normally when I see them, I go through the history, find out what's the issue, try to identify the cause of the pain, because sometimes you can really tell that if a guy goes up from like 30 to 60 km mileage in a week, that's really asking for trouble. So it's very clear cut, cause to that. I mean, I would like to kind of like examine them, do an X-ray and MRI scan if it's necessary to see the extent of the injury. And sometimes it's always, so talking about like rewarding, but the heartbreaking thing sometimes is to tell athletes that it's unlikely that they can recover in time for the race. That's another thing that sometimes like I struggle with a lot.
Right.
Because you can't obviously sell them hope and lie to them saying that you can still run. So that's actually one of the more challenging part of being in my position, to tell some of my patients that as much as like things can still change, but given that like the marathon is a month away, you've got this stress fracture or stress injury, it's going to be very unlikely that you can run it.
Right.
So those are times that like you have to make a tough call to tell the person and don't kind of muck around saying, oh, you can do it, you can't do it. I think that's a challenging part for me sometimes as an athlete myself.
Right.
Because I know how difficult it is, like, the amount of time you spend, especially a marathon, like the training cycle is like 2-3 months.
Crazy,
4 a.m. starts, the long runs, the commitment, like taking time off, and just before the race or during the race something happens. That's really heartbreaking. I find it really hard to tell some of these patients that have to go through it.
Right.
Yeah. So the sad things about being my job.
Do you also see an increase in injuries associated with the hip?
Yes.
And I wonder if it's because of
Sitting a lot, is it?
No, yeah, sitting a lot is one thing,
Right.
but I was trying to draw a correlation between that and the new wave of super shoes.
Right.
I'm trying to see, like, from your experience, right? Do you feel that when this generation of runners come to you, whether they are performance athlete or casual athlete, the introduction of super shoes, right? Do you see another like rise of injury trend?
Right.
Pause 1 second. Super shoes to the audience is shoes with
Like carbon plate,
carbon
high
plated
stack,
shoes. Yeah, high stack.
Yeah.
High means very thick,
cushy.
expensive, carbon plated
No,
shoes.
these days are expensive relative already.
Oh, right. What is a $400 shoe they can wear one time? Shouting out Adidas. Okay, okay, but carry on.
Yes. Correct.
I don't think it's just specific to the hip. I think a lot of athletes that pick up these super shoes without having gone through like a range of shoes to try out from, they just stick to super shoes like for their training runs, their long runs, and tempo runs. I think that's when you run into trouble, because I think the impact of the body that you absorb through the super shoes is just a little bit higher compared to your standard like cushy shoes that you use for your long runs and your training runs. So I think there's some basis to it. I mean, I'm trying to figure out if there is. I have this gait analysis software that I'm trying to just assess to see if there's any change in impact when you use the carbon plated super shoes compared to non-carbon plated shoes. So still work in progress, but I mean, hoping to find out more if that kind of leads to increased impact amongst runners who use super shoes.
And you yourself as an athlete, I'm sure you have. Do you use super shoes?
I used to be racing flats all the way.
Yeah, I know. It
when
used to be the super
exactly.
thin ones.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the days. That's not that long ago, actually. It's like 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
The Asics super flats were a very popular thing. I converted to it and haven't really looked back since for race specific shoes. I really think that it makes a big difference to your race performance.
So you converted to super shoes.
Super shoes, yes, for racing. Yeah.
Wow.
I think you get that bounciness. I'm not sure whether it's like really translates into faster times, but just the feel that you're going faster with the super
It's
shoes.
present.
Yeah, it's really quite a game changer compared to racing flats. But again, doesn't mean that I use that for every single type of training run, like for your long runs and for your tempos. So I will mix it up a bit still, even with the super shoes for race training.
Cool. I was asking because when the new wave of like thick cushion carbon plated shoes first arrived, I read an article saying that because it took away a lot of like pressure from the lower limbs, especially the ankles, compared to the racing flats, and then now it kind of like the injury trend that they are seeing or observing is that it moved up to the hips because
most of the impact is going there, is it?
Yeah. So that's why I said I wanted to ask that to see.
Yeah, it's quite controversial because the reason why there was that whole barefoot running thing that came into the market at the time was because the shoes, the very thick ones, according to the author of the book Born to Run, which I'm sure all of you have read,
heard of
it's
it.
saying that like the shoes were something that we were not born with. So we were obviously born to run.
Natural running.
Yeah, exactly. So when you do that, like people tend to strike their heel when they run compared to the 4-foot strikers, which is the natural way of running amongst that tribe of super runners that the author was following. So when you have the super shoes or the thick shoes or what they call it, like body becomes lazy. So like it just strikes the heel and that absorbs impact. So the shoe does absorbing from you for you. Whereas when you are doing a 4-foot, you're running with like really like zero drop shoes or really thin shoes. The body itself, the muscles are actually forced to absorb the shock.
Right.
Like learn to absorb the shock. Hence the 4-foot running tends to dissipate the impact through the muscles that go up as opposed to the shoe or the carbon, like whatever shoe cushioning that takes away the shock. So there's a slight difference in philosophy, but I think the verdict is still out there. I don't think we really know like what is the best type of shoe for everybody.
Okay.
But I would say like try out different things. It's still worth trying out different shoes.
Up,
but only if you don't have a problem. So a lot of people like go out looking for problems, which is sometimes how it is, right? Everybody's a bit FOMO. Oh, the guy is wearing the super shoes. I want to wear that too. But they had no issues before when they start like changing things around a bit too much.
And then they
exactly. So like the whole evolution from like rear foot to 4-foot strikers. People are like fine running like heel strike all the way, but some because of that book and because of that thinking, they start doing like 4-foot striker and end up with different problems. So I mean, I will go by the mantra: if I'm broke, don't fix it. So that's my so sorry. I still run like I'm still a rear striker, a heel striker. I haven't changed it. And so far so good.
Okay, cool. Now moving on, right? I'm just thinking, in your case, through your time, treating both active patients and probably you have a fair share of like just sedentary or normal patients, right? When do you decide whether a certain approach is needed? For example, when you decide whether a surgery is necessary for that kind of case, or whether a kind of like less invasive kind of approach is required.
Yeah. So I mean, normally it depends on the type of injury that the patients have. I mean, if you come in with a broken bone, I mean, that one, like whether you're an active athlete or whether you're not an active athlete, I think you probably have to go surgery to fix the bone, depending on how bad the fracture is. But for some of the injuries that, let's say, not so serious, like an ankle sprain where there's a torn ligament, a lot of times, like I would tailor it based on the patient's personality, their activity level. So if it's an elite athlete that they can't afford a downtime because it affects their career, affects their maybe academics or scholarship, then sometimes we are veering more towards like surgery in order to try and get them back to their game as quickly as possible. So there's a lot of thinking that goes on and a lot of like discussion with the patient. And for some of the less active ones, they don't mind going through a rehab for about 6 weeks after an ankle sprain before they assess how things are. If it's still painful, it's still unstable, they might end up going for surgery. So we really tailor it based on the patient's background, activity level, their level of sport.
Right.
Because I think that's important. You can't have like a blanket approach for every single patient. So, but when it comes to these patients as well, like, I think being sportsman myself, I like to ensure that they get back to the sport as quickly as possible. So we always use the most minimally invasive technique, smallest cut, and also like we always try less invasive things first before surgery from some of these patients that don't actually require surgery straight away. So there are a lot of other options like physical therapy, splints, some injections that can be helpful for these patients.
Okay.
Coming to sorry. Go ahead.
No worries, please.
No,
everyone's like, this is my
can I get some treatment too?
We're all the aunties right now.
What's your most so let's say for surgery, right?
Yeah.
And for runners, is there the most complex kind of what's the most complex situation or that you need to use surgery as the option to help treat that person?
For run, I mean,
runners.
So let me just say an example of, let's say, a runner with maybe knee cartilage injury or meniscus injury. So there's some of these patients that come from like rather competitive background and they want to really go back to running straight away. And sometimes like they have this thought process that after the surgery I can go right back into the sport 100%.
Yeah.
And that's when you really have to sit down and have this like honest conversation that it might require like some time off from running, from your sports. And that's something that's quite difficult because being an athlete myself, I know that the drive to go back there straight away and it's always there. It's like, doctor say 4 weeks. It's okay, 2 weeks is fine. Back doing stuff. So there's a bit of that mindset that you really have to get into your patient's head that like surgery is actually like the start of this like recovery journey. It's not like after the surgery you can go straight back to a marathon. So I think talking to that patient and having that conversation is really some of the more challenging things. Like surgery is actually the easy part to me. I mean, I think that surgery is an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm kind of done after that. But it's really the recovery period. And that's when you really need like a good team of physical therapists to help out. You need somebody, sometimes even like a sports psychologist to help out. Like you need a team of people to ensure that he can get back to the sports. Right. So that's, I think it's I work quite closely with a lot of physical therapists who are really into their sports too. Okay. So I've have quite a few patients that have really benefited from that multidisciplinary approach where you have like people coming in
like an ecosystem.
Yeah, it really is. Because it really is. And people who are also passionate about the sports too, because you need people who love the sports that you're doing, because I think it makes a difference to how they relate to you. Right. They understand how you do things, and he's not so nuts. I'm quite nuts myself, pushing for the sport. Yeah. So yeah, we had, just a side story, we had like this mountain biker that had a crash, broke his collarbone, and he had a race like 5 days later.
Oh shit, okay.
So yeah, it was one of those things that we needed a team that could really get him back to his sport as quickly as possible. And you need him as well, like mentally to be able to do that, because because like he had a broken collarbone which I fixed. And most people like after that they would take maybe like 2-3 months before they even go back to cycling. And it's not just like a normal road bike, this is like a mountain bike with like terrain, and he was actually gunning for the national championship title. So that was one of those actually very rewarding things. You talk about how rewarding it is sometimes to be in that position to be able to help somebody reach their goal and their dream. So that was one of the recent cases that we were very privileged to be part of.
5 days.
5 days after.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy story. I can't, because we call this like Project Tom Pitcock, because there was this Olympic mountain biker that won the Olympics gold about 3 months after he had a similar collarbone injury. So he took 3 months to win that. And when he was back riding about 6 weeks, I think 6 weeks or I think it was three or 4 weeks after his injury.
Right.
But Riyad, I mean, that's the guy's name, Riyad. Riyad not only like cycled, he competed 5 days later.
Damn.
But it was quite stressful too because it's not really
anything
been
can happen.
done.
Yeah.
It's not really been done before, and I just had to have the someone I can work with really closely.
Right.
So the physiotherapist and kind of.
So does he have a fairy tale ending? Did he win?
He came in runner up.
Oh, not bad.
Which is super good.
I mean, he was disappointed.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
But
I
brother needs to
mean,
have his expectations.
I know. So I was there at the race. I think and he was like, like you're the
You
man.
were more stressed than he
I was more
was.
stressed because this guy is like just out on the mountain bike course 5 days after his surgery,
Right.
and like a lot of things can happen, but it's just
I see Firoz, right? The eyes light up already.
First,
You
what
say-
question do you have with your
Yeah.
tomato cough?
Can you make him run faster? 5 days later.
The question I had, I think more or less he kind of answered, but yes. So pertaining to you, because let's say injuries that are not so serious, doesn't involve surgery and stuff, like the case.
my ankle
having
tendon
a-
injury.
Yeah, ankle tendon. How do you would you convince an athlete to balance between maintaining their fitness and their injury?
Yeah, I usually try to find something to distract them, for lack of a better word. So, I mean, when you have a tendon injury in an ankle and you know that running is the cause of the injury, so you must find something to like keep them still using that pent-up energy to do something else. So if they are into something else like cycling, low impact stuff like swimming, I will highly recommend that, like to try and like still use up the aerobic energy that they have to get them going, but at the same time not to be too like discouraged by not being able to run.
Right.
So that's how you try and like tell them to balance things out a little bit so that they can still run. They can still run. I mean, I will always tell them to stop running, but just to always balance things out with something else to like kind of allow injury to heal and not to discourage them too much. So that's
what
my
if you-
strategy sometimes.
What if you get someone that's stubborn like me? Like
Just say
you
it's
can't-
you lah.
Somebody, my friend has an ankle injury.
Yeah, my friend.
My friend got coughing
Asking
too
for
much
it.
already.
Yeah. Until now, he coughing.
Yeah, that's why coughing.
Yeah, until now, see? So if the person can't swim,
Person. Oh.
if riding a bike,
Also got problem.
Hey, Firoz, you cannot swim.
I can.
I'm
Throw
sure
me,
it's true for
throw
being
me in the
exposed
center of
to-
the pool, I'll be able to swim.
Swim
Like,
back
your
in
life.
Okay.
yeah, and if cycling is like very boring. If you want to maintain your fitness, so you want to cycle hard. So road cycling is not for those who are doing cross training. So the best way is in the gym.
Right.
Watt bike or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's still a lot of options even if you wanted to run. I mean, if there are actually some of these like treadmills that take your body weight off, it's called I think it's Alter-G
Alter-G.
treadmill.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like a wedgie that pulls you up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you've tried before, but there's one actually in the SSI gym. So
I tried before.
it's really awkward. Like,
How's the feeling?
so
How's the feeling like?
You have to wear this tights that is attached to the machine.
Right.
And then you adjust your weight support percentage. So if you want like
90% support, that means you're just like floating.
but with a big wedgie. So it's really uncomfortable.
Prepare for a big wedgie.
Yeah. So there are some of these like modalities that we can use to try and still get you running. I think there are a lot of tools out there. Like the elliptical machine is actually pretty good too. That mimics that. There's the Ellipti-Go. I think it's one of the machines that Matt Kefsegli uses to like. He's a big advocate. It's
Yeah.
like a bike, but it's elliptical
It's
on the
like
road.
big-
Yeah, so it kind of allows you to still maintain a bit of the running dynamics, the muscles that go with it. So I think there are a lot of options out there. Like if you still want to run, but yeah, but I do enforce that like it's really probably not good for you if you continue doing that because the injury, if you don't treat it properly, it's gonna come back to haunt you because it might be a lot longer to treat, a lot longer to recover. So always listen to your body. I always tell patients, that's how I would advise my friend.
Take note,
Take note. Right.
Yeah. So injuries we always try to avoid, right?
Yeah.
As best as we can. So what advices or the best advice you can give to those who elites or whoever trying to train up for certain races to avoid injury?
So I think discipline is really important, and I think something that I can attest to is that as you age, it's really important to go to the gym more often to do strength work. Because like being an endurance athlete and being a runner, like to me, like gym is like the most boring place to be.
Right.
But it is actually a really necessary part of your workout to ensure that you don't get injured. Prevention is better than cure, as you have just mentioned. So I will always advise like at least one strength and conditioning session a week, just to work on like the lower limb muscles, the core, just to reduce the risk of injury. Makes you a better runner as well. But it's just one of those things that like it's really hard to push yourself to do because like to me it's just boring being in the gym.
Right.
The stretching stuff is also really important. Warm up and proper stretching after the workout is really important too. And having a coach or at least enough experience to know in your program not to go crazy. You don't raise your mileage too much. You don't do like crazy intensities without any proper planning.
Right.
So just sticking to the workout, sticking to the plan. And partly why I got this injury was because I was just doing long runs at like sub 4 minute pace and the hills of Sentosa. So, I completely myself to blame.
Right.
So, I think it's those things that like, you look back like, I kind of know what I do. And so I think that the discipline to really put in one gym session a week to really keep to that program and not get tempted to chase after that friend who's running too fast, too furious, or just like, trying to beat each other for mileage and intensity.
For that Strava medal.
Yeah, that Strava like segment, I'm gonna beat that segment out. So those are my advice to try and reduce the risk of any injury.
Right. Thank you.
But in that same vein, you did mention about people who decided to not listen. And then they develop a chronic problem.
Yes.
Right? And then how do you deal with those kind of issues? Like, Firoz is he got chronic brain problems. So, and we have, from the time I know him right now, he always, tries to come back quicker than he's supposed to. Look at where is he losing the money and not yet. So what kind of advice do you give people?
I would never tell them that I told you so. That's like the worst
as much as you want to tell them, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'll never come back to you. I think you need to again sit them down and really have that conversation, like to ask them like, is there a reason why, like, is this why you're continuing to wreck your body? I think you must understand that first, like before you can even go on to the treatment,
right?
Because you can talk about treatment, you can talk about injections, but that's kind of just helping the pain, but you're not treating the cause.
Right.
So if they just keep on doing whatever you're doing, like they're doing to make the problem worse, like, that's not going to really help out.
Precisely.
And I think there's some athletes that I like run with, and sometimes like if you run with them, you can tell them that, don't go so fast, just chill out. But like an accountability thing, like a buddy check thing.
Yeah.
So I think if you have somebody that can do that with you or like with the patient, I think that's really helpful. A group that you can really train with, and there are sensible people that can look out for you and make sure that you don't do some crazy stuff.
Wow.
I think quite definitely that's the other one. So accountability, someone to like you can relate to.
Right.
Because I'm not there all the time, so I need him or her to really have that group that can really remind them that like this race that you're training for is not worth the injury.
Right.
Just to set up the perspective in mind. That, I think it's about the longevity, it's about the sensibility of running and exercise.
Right.
So it's not just that one race. Like one step back, 2 steps forwards. That's always my way of trying to tell these patients to take it easy. Don't make things worse than it really is. But not easy lah. It's not easy. It really is.
It's always easier to advise than to
take that advice for yourself.
Yeah. So yes, that's sometimes.
I got a question just now when they all had a question.
Yeah.
Injections. Okay. So I think we have heard of certain terms like PRP. And steroid injections, as the before the surgery, these are some of the options.
Yeah.
What is the current state in Singapore? Is injections like this allowed? Because back when I was still competing, I remember these injections were still being tested, not really approved whatsoever. What's the state of it right now? And is it still a possible solution for people to look out for? Yeah.
I mean, I get asked that a lot. Like people will come to me saying that, what's that magic injection that you gave to my friend? Can I have that too? I mean, that's something that I get asked a lot. And they're always like abbreviations, like you said, PRP, like BMAX, stem cells, such a huge variety of things. And people are even injecting salmon DNA into like things as well. So all kinds of like different injections are out there in the market.
Right.
The research for those are still like coming out, but there are definitely some research that points towards like benefits of having some of these injections. But just to break it down, like you said correctly, there are 3 major types of injection. Like the H&L is steroids.
Yeah.
So that's usually more like a quick fix. If you have a niggling injury that's like bothering you a little bit, and is due to like increased inflammation,
right,
and you are just trying to get through that like vicious cycle of inflammation whereby you have pain, you can't get better because you can't train and get stronger.
Right.
So that's supposed to break that cycle like, by injecting the anti-inflammatory directly into the part that hurts.
Okay.
The second one is PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma.
Yeah.
For that, you draw blood from your own veins,
Right.
and that blood gets spun down, and the platelet component, which has pro-healing and anti-inflammatory components to it, is then injected into the sites that are injured.
Right.
So there's some strict guidelines by the Ministry of Health on how these injections are supposed to be used for. Usually it's for acute ligament or tendon injuries.
Right.
So those are well indicated by the Ministry of Health.
Right.
But I think over the years, there have been increasing evidence and it's been being used in a lot of other things like arthritis of the knee.
I heard people pump it in the face and all for facial stuff and all,
As
right?
far as I know, that's definitely illegal, but I don't do it. So
I heard people fly to Korea to do it because it's legal there. And
I think it used to be called this vampire injection. So PRP injection in small microneedles.
Correct,
into the face.
microneedling,
Yeah, but I think it has stopped though. I mean, I don't do
Right,
it.
okay.
I heard about it for sure. I have some friends who actually went for it. And when they told me that their PRP injection, I was like, oh, which knee? What happened to you?
Oh no, my nose.
Yeah, that was a bit awkward. I was like, oh, okay. But no, so that's the PRP.
Yeah.
I think the other one is it's called hyaluronic acid. It's short for lubrication gel.
Okay.
It's normally in your knee.
Hyaluronic acid.
Yeah, so that's a natural component in your knee fluid or lubrication. So in some patients who are a little bit older, like the amount that's produced is a bit less.
Okay.
So that's usually injected to top up the amount of lubrication in the knee.
Right.
So that helps with a bit of like better gliding, less. It's like a tire that's a bit worn out.
Okay.
So you're sort of covering it up to reduce the amount of friction, the amount of like the bumps and all that in the tire.
Wow.
So those are 3 injections. There's stem cell injections too, but that's a little bit more. I wouldn't say experimental, but there's a lot of different types out there. But those are the ones that are talked about when it comes to injections. Nice. So yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely a role for some of these injections, but I'll just be mindful of what it's being used for and who's it giving to you, because unfortunately it doesn't come cheap as well, which is something that patients are big. And some of these think that like after the injection, they can just go out and run a marathon. Again, so like similar principles that, and I think that's when you really have to have that discussion with the patient to kind of manage expectations to tell them that like this really is not like a magic bullet. You still need to go through the rehab, you have to go through like, all the thing and like trying to find out what's the cause of your injury as opposed to just like masking it with things. So, so that's, a bit of a nutshell and
perfect.
Injections.
Wow, that's answered my question. Melvin, look like you got something in your mind.
No. I read online that there was this I don't know, this it's called have you heard of Haglund's deformity? Yeah.
That's
so
the
extra bone.
So that there's the extra like I don't know the bone that sticks out from your heel like that.
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder, is that something that's that you see often here in Singapore?
Yeah, it's quite a common thing that we find in runners, lower limb athletes. And because of the extra bone that juts out, you can actually rub against the Achilles tendon. So because obviously runners so use our legs a lot more, so it's actually quite prominent amongst runners to have that deformity causing issues.
Whether is it like is it with you since young, or is it something that it builds up along the way because you run?
Most likely genetic, but running of course like would make it worse, especially if you have very tight Achilles tendon, because essentially that's the bone of the heel. The Achilles tendon comes on the back. So if you have a prominent bone that's jutting against the Achilles tendon, and if your tendon is very tight, you don't really stretch out much, that's going to be an issue because it's going to rub on the back.
Okay, it's going to be
tendon.
compressed.
Compressed. It's like jutting against it and you're kind of rubbing it, and because it's very tight, as opposed to like people who have like a bit more flexibility from all the stretching, it causes less of a problem, I think, in those patients. So I always advocate like stretching, so condition exercises first before you even consider removing the bump.
So that straightforward, okay, I wouldn't say straightforward, but one of the solution is to, I don't know what, saw off the bump, is it?
Saw sounds like a very scary word.
Sorry for the very good, you must give me the medical term.
We shave it off.
Shave off.
Wait,
in a very minimally invasive manner. 2 small holes.
On that topic, right?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm most definitely wrong.
It's
Okay. They said that the reason why you get that growth of bone at an area is because of that constant contact or rubbing, a bit like how a bunion forms, but this is at the back of your heel. So you constant rubbing, then apparently your body thinks that it's getting injured, it sends protein or calcium there to protect it, and then that it turns into a
Yes.
Haglund deformity.
Yeah, I think it's two different types. Haglund is actually more of a deformity on the top of the calcaneum bone, the heel
Right.
bone.
Yeah.
The one that I think you're referring to most likely is that the Achilles tendon inserts into the back of the heel.
Yeah.
So it's called insertional TA tendinopathy. So same thing like you mentioned, like when there is a lot of inflammation in the bone in that part,
Right.
the body actually starts to send signals there to repair it.
Right.
And that actually converts it to, becomes ossified. The medical term
Right.
says that it turns into a bit of bone.
Right.
So, and then it becomes a bit of a vicious cycle now because now
You have a deformity.
you have a bit of deformity, and that kind of causes more problems. It becomes a bit tendinopathic,
Yeah.
and like your shoe wear now is affected because it's
Precisely.
pressing against the back of the heel.
Yeah.
So it just compounds a bit of the whole problem.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, when you start having pain in the heel, I would say like just like trying to figure out what's the cause and address it first, and not just run through the pain. And like,
Right.
so that's another thing that we
Wow.
see quite common too.
I
So two
could be a
different things.
surgeon also.
You're right. Yeah, but different. Yeah, not Haglund's, but just like,
Oh, shit, okay,
but
I'll study a bit more.
Bone deformity, bone protrusions.
Apex hiring. Okay.
Yeah.
Firoz, any other
Insightful.
questions?
Yeah.
No, sir.
For
No,
your,
I
for
think
your
Firoz
friend
just-
or for your
For your friend.
Your friend again.
If I do, my friend contact me. I'll let you know.
Always happy to help.
Yeah. If not, it's been really amazing for having you here, Jen. You work at Apex Sports Clinic. Can you tell us where is it located at?
We have two locations
Yeah.
for the convenience of our patients. So one in Royal Square, Novena, and another one at I12 Katong in the east for our Easties.
Easties, right.
Yes.
Okay, Easties, very important location. And Melvin was going to ask you.
So how?
Yeah, so if the listeners or anyone wants to reach out to you,
Yeah.
what's the best avenue for them to contact you?
Yeah. So I'm a bit of a dinosaur on social media. So the best way is to look for my website, Apex Sports Clinic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be happy to help out. Hopefully not seeing you professionally, but just come by for a coffee too. That'll be fine.
That's nice.
And what's the motto? I heard there's a very power motto there.
Getting you back in the game.
Baby. I think Firoz needs that now. For next week's Garmin run.
Firoz is the game.
Always in the game.
All right, so that's all. Thank you so much, Jen, for being here.
Thank you. That was really fun. Thank you.
Hope to
Thanks,
catch you in
guys.
some of the races.
I hope
All
so
right.
too.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Dr. Jen.
Look out
Thank
for
you,
me.
man.